Please note that the content of this tour is serious and contains interviews with Pentagon survivors that may be inappropriate for young children and distressful for those personally impacted by September 11th. Please walk to the black entry stone that reads Pentagon Memorial. Welcome to the Pentagon and the Pentagon Memorial. We would like to take a moment and give you a brief background on the memorial and on the Pentagon itself. Throughout this tour, you will be directed to several key points of interest that will help you understand the significance of what you are about to see. You should now be standing at the black entry stone that reads Pentagon Memorial. The Pentagon Memorial is America's first national 9/11 memorial dedicated to those who died in the attack on our nation on September 11, 2001. The Pentagon Memorial design was developed by Julie Beckman and Keith Caseman. Their vision for the memorial was selected from more than 1,100 submissions by a panel of architects, family members, and public figures in the Washington, D.C. area, including 2 former secretaries of defense. The significance of the entry stone is captured in the inscription. We claim this ground in remembrance of the events of September 11, 2001, to honor the 184 people whose lives were lost, their families, and all who sacrificed that we may live in freedom. We will never forget. This quote was originally inscribed in limestone for the groundbreaking ceremony on June 15, 2006. It was transferred to this piece of granite to stand the test of time, capture the sentiments expressed during the construction effort, and identify the real purpose of the memorial. The reverse side of the entry stone pays tribute to all those individuals, companies, military leaders, and government officials that played an integral role in the commission, design, funding, and construction of this historic memorial. Please walk to the second black stone that lists the names of the 184 victims. You should now be standing in front of the locator stone that lists the victims. This stone carries the inscription, "On September 11, 2001, acts of terrorism took the lives of thousands at the World Trade Center in New York City, in a grassy field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and here at the Pentagon. We will forever remember our loved ones, friends, and colleagues." All 3 locations have been written into the history of the United States and claimed as sacred ground to recognize the tragedy of September 11th. Farther down the stone, each person lost here at the Pentagon is listed alphabetically by their last name along with their birth year, which can be used to locate their personal commemorative bench inside the memorial. The victims came from all walks of life, across the social, economic, ethnic, and religious spectrum. Administrative assistants, homemakers, doctors, educators, flight crew members, military and civilian personnel, scientists, and students. They came from towns and cities, large and small, from across America and around the world. The youngest was only 3 years old, the oldest 71. This expansive entrance, referred to as the Memorial Gateway, is meant to be a point of thought and remembrance before entering the memorial itself. Please proceed through the row of trees to the zero line at the entrance of the memorial. As you walk, we will tell you about the history of the Pentagon. The Pentagon is the national headquarters of the Department of Defense and has long been the most recognized symbol of strength, power, and freedom in the world. It presently houses approximately 26,000 military and civilian employees and about 3,000 non-defense support personnel dedicated to protecting our national interests. The Pentagon was created in 16 short months during World War II. Completed in 1943, the Pentagon contains 17.5 miles of corridors and is still the largest low-rise office building in the world. The base of the Pentagon sits on 34 acres of land, including the 5-acre center courtyard. Each wedge of the Pentagon is large enough to contain the entire U.S. Capitol building. An early plan for the building at the original proposed site called for a square structure with one corner cut off to accommodate an existing road. This resulted in a skewed pentagon shape. The Pentagon is a 5-sided, 5-story building containing 5 concentric rings of offices. You should now be standing at the zero line with September 11, 2001 inscribed in steel at the entrance of the memorial. The official entrance into the memorial occurs as you walk across what is known as the zero line, a line of granite inlaid into the concrete walking path. It is inscribed with the precise date and time of the attack on the Pentagon, September 11, 2001 at 9:37 a.m. The zero line was one of the final markers to be placed in the memorial before the dedication ceremony on September 11, 2008. The Pentagon Memorial has been constructed and positioned in the direct flight path of American Airlines Flight 77 seconds before it penetrated the exterior wall of the Pentagon, the exact point of impact, which you will see in a few minutes. Surrounding the memorial on 3 sides is a perimeter bench. Along the walkway, you will periodically see 2 parallel strips of stainless steel that extend through the memorial, anchored on the perimeter wall with a calendar year plaque dating back to 1930. These markers represent age lines that correspond to the birth year of each victim, listed on the locator stone and contains their personal memorial bench.
I'll even scoot over for you.
Please proceed to the 1998 age line. The benches throughout the memorial are oriented in 2 directions to distinguish whether that victim was on Flight 77 or in the Pentagon at the time of the attacks. To understand the directions, read the engraved nameplate at the end of each bench. When you are reading the nameplate, if you are facing the sky with your back to the Pentagon, the person lost was on Flight 77. Conversely, if you are reading the nameplate while looking at the Pentagon, that individual was in the building at the time of the attack. The 1998 age line contains the commemorative bench of young Dana Falkenberg. At age 3, Dana was the youngest person to have died here at the Pentagon. Tragically, Dana's entire family died with her aboard Flight 77. You will notice that there is a plaque in the pool of water under Dana's bench that lists the names of her parents, Charles and Leslie, and her older sister, Zoe. These plaques can be found under units where an individual perished alongside family members. This allows family members lost to remain forever linked. Please walk to the 1990 age line. Along with Dana and her sister Zoe, this area also displays the benches of Rodney Dickens, Asia Cottam, and Bernard Brown, who were accompanied by 3 teachers and 2 National Geographic directors on a trip to the Channel Islands off Santa Barbara, California. Please walk to the 1961 age line. As you continue further into the Memorial Park, you will notice a large gap before the next benches begin, denoting the age separation between the young children lost and the next youngest adult, 22-year-old Edmund Grafton Young Jr. On the western edge of the memorial, as you look away from the Pentagon and stretching the length of the memorial from north to south, is a progressively taller gray wall called the age wall. The significance of the age wall is that it rises in height 1 inch per year above the perimeter bench relative to the age lines. At Dana Falkenberg's age line, the height of the wall is just 3 inches above the height of the perimeter bench. Continuing to the north side of the memorial, the wall reaches 71 inches above the perimeter bench at the age line of John Yemnicki, who was the oldest person to have died here at age 71. The entire Pentagon Memorial is designed to engage the senses in every possible way. You will walk over the crunching gravel surrounding each of the 184 cantilevered benches and notice the white crepe myrtles throughout the memorial. Each bench is made from polished stainless steel with a solid granite tile top, while beneath is a sparkling fountain which is illuminated at night. In the night sky, the radiance of these illuminations of remembrance shimmer in the darkness in honor of 184 lost souls. You should now be standing at the 1961 age line. The fence surrounding the memorial was purposeful in its design as well. It was important for visitors and surviving family members to be able to see the Pentagon and, indeed, the precise point of impact. If you position yourself along the fence line closest to the building, you will see a charred black stone in the base of the Pentagon that was pulled from the original building during excavation following the attack. The stone was reset into the foundation of the newly rebuilt structure and inscribed with September 11, 2001. American Airlines Flight 77 struck the Pentagon between the first and second floors, just 6 windows to the left of the 3 wooden exit doors in front of you. You can best see the actual point of impact between the 1959 and 1961 age lines. At this point, we encourage you to find a comfortable place to sit or explore the park and imagine, reflect on, and revisit the reality of that tragic morning on this very site where it happened. The morning of September 11th was a warm, sunny morning in Washington, D.C., just as it was in New York City and all along the eastern seaboard. Tom Morgan, a Pentagon survivor, recalls,
I remember walking up and looking at the sky. I've yet to see another day that I remember as being quite that brilliant in the sky. There wasn't a cloud, and the temperature was beautiful, and it was just an absolutely wonderful day.
The sounds and bustle of the traffic on Route 27, just to the west, were the same that morning as they are today. The planes overhead on final approach or takeoff from Reagan National Airport were very much the same. The military and civilian personnel in and about the Pentagon, all there that day as well. For some, the morning was filled with expectancy as they drove to the airport to embark on a long-awaited vacation. Robert and Zandra Ploger were leaving for their honeymoon in Hawaii. Young Asia Cottom, Rodney Dickens, and Bernard Brown were brimming with excitement as they had been selected from a group of 5th and 6th graders to fly all the way to California with their teachers for a National Geographic conference. For all, it was a beautiful start to what promised to be a beautiful day in our nation's capital. Nobody knew what lay ahead. Ted Olson, Solicitor General of the United States, recalls his last conversation with his wife Barbara while she was aboard American Airlines Flight 77.
One of the secretaries rushed in and said, Barbara's on the phone. And I jumped for the phone, so glad to hear Barbara's voice. I wanted to find out where the plane was. She said the plane had been hijacked shortly after takeoff.
My
And they
asshole
had been
friend.
circling around, I think, the words that she used. She
Yeah.
reported to me that
That was it?
you could see houses.
That's all.
I asked her which direction the plane was going. She paused. There was a pause there. I think she must have asked someone else, and she said, I think it's going northeast.
Mike Walter, a senior correspondent for USA Today Live, remembers his day.
I was really upset with the traffic because it wasn't moving. And I kind of told myself, look, you got to calm down. I rolled down the window, and that's when I heard the jet. And I looked up and saw its underbelly, and then it banked, and it began its dive. And, it's unbelievable. It's amazing. Anytime I replay it in my mind, I just think about how horrific that day was.
American Airlines Flight 77 was a scheduled flight from Washington Dulles International Airport to Los Angeles International Airport. The Boeing 757 approached the west wall of the Pentagon in excess of 500 miles an hour from the direction of what is now the Air Force Memorial. As it approached the Pentagon site, it was so low to the ground that it reportedly clipped an antenna on a vehicle on an adjacent road and severed several light posts. It was approximately 420 feet only a few feet above the ground. The aircraft flew over the grassy area next to the Pentagon until its right wing struck a piece of construction equipment that was approximately 100 feet from the face of the building. At that time, the aircraft had rolled slightly to the left, its right wing elevated. After the plane had traveled another 75 feet, the left engine hit the ground at nearly the same instant that the nose of the aircraft struck the west wall of the Pentagon. At 9:37 a.m. on September 11th, the 20,000 people present in the Pentagon had no hint of the stunning explosion and firestorm about to engulf those in the path of the doomed airliner only seconds away from striking its target. John Yates, a Pentagon survivor, remembers,
one of my coworkers asked me if I knew what was going on in New York. So I said no, and she said, well, you got to come see. And there's a crowd of people watching the TV. So I stood there for a few minutes and watched. And then I walked back to my desk. I called my wife. She said she knew, and I said, well, I just wanted to let you know I was okay. And she said, do me a favor. For the rest of the day, work from underneath your desk. So I laughed. And I said, yeah, honey, I will. I love you, and I'll see you tonight. And I walked back over, and by this time, the crowd kind of thinned out a little bit. And just as I decided to get up and leave, the plane hit the outside of the building.
Raquel Kelly, a Pentagon survivor, recalls her experience inside the Pentagon.
One thing that I do remember very vividly and clear is the impact. I can relive that like it just happened. Everything was on fire, and I climbed under my desk, and I remember saying a prayer. And I looked for my cell phone, but I couldn't feel it because my hand was on fire, and I was still trying to figure out what is going on around here.
John Yates continues.
I was blown through the air, and when I landed, I really didn't know where I was. The room was just black, and everything I touched burned my hands. Eventually, I stood up and started walking down towards the center courtyard. And it's at this point that I finally realized how badly I was hurt. There's a lot of things that I don't remember to this day, but I remember my wife waking me up, and I thought it was still September 11th, but it was September 13th. You know, when I went back over the second time to watch what was going on in New York, I was standing in the middle of 5 people, and I'm the only one that survived.
The attack killed 184 people. On the airliner, 59 flight crew and passengers died. Inside the Pentagon, 125 Department of Defense employees were killed. All 5 hijackers on the plane died as well. Within moments of the attack, a rescue and recovery effort was underway, led by the Pentagon and Arlington County, Virginia first responders. Larry Everett, a battalion chief for Fairfax County, Virginia, was fighting the fire inside the Pentagon within minutes of the attack.
You could watch the metal desks and the metal file cabinets just melt down in front of us, which, the temperatures were estimated anywhere between 2,000 and 3,000 degrees in that area at that time. And so there's really no explanation as to why we could stand there and not be consumed by the fire, because our gear is not rated for that kind of temperature.
Ileana Mayorga, a management specialist with Volunteer Arlington, stayed at work to serve the citizens of Arlington County after the attack on the Pentagon.
And exactly like at 1 o'clock, the phone started ringing. And there were people coming that wanted to come and help. Because we are the volunteer office, it was very natural for them to call the volunteer office to do volunteer work for that day. Had a man who called and he said, "I am 80 years old. I still fit in my pilot uniform from World War II. I can still see, I can still hear, and I have kept up with my training as a pilot. Tell everybody, or whoever you can tell, that I'm ready to report for duty." That broke my heart.
10 days later, on September 21st, command of the crime scene was turned over to the FBI. The success of the overall response was due in large part to the Pentagon and Arlington County's level of preparedness and professional, innovative use of resources, including the mobilization of all surrounding municipalities from Maryland, Virginia, and the District of Columbia. The memorial itself was dedicated on the morning of September 11, 2008, 7 years after the attack. Jim Lachak, who lost his brother Dave at the Pentagon, addressed thousands of people at the memorial that day. The bench honoring Dave Lachak can be found along the 1961 age line. The words Jim spoke were those of remembrance.
He was a wonderful husband and father. He was a great brother and a loyal friend. He was a good man.
Words of reflection.
That is how I feel about today as we dedicate this great memorial, the culmination of 7 years of commitment to one goal. We want people to remember. We want people to remember what happened here. We want people to remember our loved ones. We want people to remember the feeling that swept through our country after 9/11, that feeling of taking care of all those who were in such pain.
Words of hope and inspiration.
Today is a day to celebrate life, a day to celebrate a remarkable achievement. When I look out at the memorial, when I see the leaves in the trees flitter in the breeze, when I see the ripples in the water, when I see the reflected sunshine climb up the sides of the memorial units, I see the beauty of life. I hope the Pentagon Memorial will provide a sense of closure and comfort to all those who are still in pain. I hope that family members, when they walk among the trees and benches, will be able to make a special connection to those that they lost. I hope that everyone who visits the memorial will come away with a sense of hope and inspiration, because the memorial represents what great things can happen when we all work together to create something good.
Thank you for visiting the Pentagon Memorial. For more information about the
We got 2 more.
preserved memorial and future generations, please visit www.pentagonmemorial.org. This audience is brought to you by the Pentagon Memorial, a nonprofit tax-deductible organization founded by victims and made possible by CAA Consulting and 45 North Communications with the following special contributions. Editorial support provided by the Pentagon Renovation Program Information and Communications Office. The Pentagon Renovation Program supports the Secretary of Defense, departmental leadership, and other customers through renovation, construction, and modernization of the Pentagon. Penren was also the construction agent for the Pentagon Memorial Project. Interviews recorded at StoryCorps, a national nonprofit whose mission is to provide Americans of all backgrounds and beliefs with the opportunity to record, share, and preserve the stories of our lives. For more information, visit www.storycorps.org. Oral Histories provided by the National September 11th Memorial and Museum at the World Trade Center, a private not-for-profit responsible for oversight of the design, raising the necessary funds, programming and operating the memorial and museum at the World Trade Center site. For more information, visit www.national911memorial.org. 9/11 background information provided by the Flight 93 National Memorial, operated and maintained by the National Park Service in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. The Flight 93 National Memorial is dedicated to telling the inspiring and heroic story of Flight 93. To learn more, visit www.nps.gov/FLNI.